Hello and welcome to your Akashic update. My name is Laura Mazzata and I have been a therapist for 20 years in New York, and I am an Akashic healer and a Reiki master teacher, and the Akashic records are absolutely my favorite place to hang out. I feel such a palpable difference and receive such palpable downloads and wisdom and insight into humanity that I have not found anywhere else in all of the different modalities that I've done. There's a level of frequency and attunement in this space that completely blows me away and massively amplifies the gifts of everyone that I know that enters this space. So if you want to learn more about the Akashic records, there is a link in the description of this video. You can jump over to my website, read all about the Akashic records. I also have a video there that's on my YouTube channel as well, and that will guide you into the Akashic records and teach you how to start working with them and bringing through messages. So lots of fun stuff to explore if this is the beginning of your journey. But what I want to share is the potent wisdom that comes through my own meditations, through my work with clients, through the experiences that I have on this planet that I'm seeking to understand more deeply, and how it makes sense in terms of my own spiritual path and soul expansion. So I put all of that together to bring these Akashic updates to you. And today we have a few different concepts that have been brought forward recently that have been very, very potent in the field, not just for me and my loved ones and my clients, but for the collective at large. I see so many people experiencing these things, and it's important for this wisdom to be shared. So this Akashic update is going to talk about trouble with human relationships, one of the biggest barriers that you will find to expansion that I see happening everywhere, including in myself, combating feelings of loneliness and isolation, and self-trust. So we're going to start first with trouble with human relationships. So the wisdom that's coming forward around human relationships is that we really look at other people as other people, with the things that they experience or the baggage that they have and how they present and how they speak and how they interact. Where instead, what would serve us so much more in terms of this feeling of connectedness and oneness and understanding and wholehearted appreciation and unconditional love is to allow our hearts to connect with other people's hearts. So this is something that came forward. I believe it was in my full moon ceremony that I ran a couple of weeks ago, and somebody was asking about, listen, it's hard to integrate these spiritual concepts and the spiritual understanding into human relationships because of the way that humans present. And I said, there's a field called the toroidal field around our heart space. And this field is its own energy field. Our heart has its own energy field and its own intelligence. And when we allow the toroidal field of our heart to connect with the toroidal field of another's heart, that is where the intimacy and the connection comes in. We don't even have to speak. We can just be in physical presence with somebody else and be in exchange of the energy that we are meant to share with one another, because we all have soul contracts when we come to this earth as to who we're going to engage with to be able to learn our lessons and to continue to grow. And so when we connect through connecting to their hearts, connecting to their spiritual side, connecting to their energy, connecting to their soul, soul to soul, heart to heart, we're going to see them so much differently. And I say this all the time, and we're going to experience them so much differently. We're going to receive them so much differently. And I say this all the time for people who desire to connect with loved ones who have passed on, or hesitate to connect with loved ones who have passed on because they've had a rough time with them when they were here on earth. And I always tell them it's very, very important to separate who that person was when they were here on this planet and who they are in spirit. Very, very, very different presentations, very different energy, very different connection. So it's the same way here. It's like, allow yourself to remove that human mask that might be interfering with your connection with someone that you feel drawn to, right? But that you feel very confused about the nature of your relationship or about where to go next, or you're not sure if you can trust them or know their intentions. Connect with their energy first and foremost, okay? And that requires a certain level of detachment, a certain level, like a degree of separation between you and the other person, because the more attached you are, the more that you are going to not be able to see through their human because you're in defensive mode, you're in egoic mode. So how we release detachment is really to connect more to yourself, to your own soul's purpose, and keep your eyes on that vision that your soul has for you and continue to align with that frequency. The second thing we're going to be talking about here is one of the biggest barriers to expansion. And yes, I took off my sweater because I was too hot. And it's Valentine's Day on the day of this recording. So I'm representing Valentine's Day. So one of the biggest barriers to expansion, I'm going to read this to you because it's something that I brought through that has actually been presenting a lot in my life. And a lot of my clients have been endorsing the same, which is this fear of ascension into other dimensions. You don't even realize it's there. I didn't even realize it was there, but it's this fear of, I don't want to ascend into these other dimensions and like hang out in the astral plane and expand my consciousness to different levels, because then what happens if I'm not able to connect with people here on Earth? What happens if I don't want to be here on Earth? What happens if I get lost in these other realms of consciousness and I spiritually bypass, right? And I ignore the fact that I'm human and I ignore the integration and I'm just kind of hanging out in the clouds all the time and just escaping life, right? And so I found that this was something that was happening to me, that I was almost blocking my own ascension because I was afraid of spiritually bypassing. And I was like, oh, isn't that fascinating? So this is what came forward that I wanted to read to you. It's safe to embody higher dimensions. I am grounded in my humanity. I have that established. And just as a little aside here, this is so important to realize you've already established yourself in your humanity. You're already eating, you're already drinking, you're already getting clothed, you're making some level of income to be able to have access to the internet or accessing community resources, right? Like you already know how to navigate being human to a degree at the most basic level because you are alive and you are here. So trust that you are established enough in your humanity that you're not going to ignore everybody that tries to talk to you, that you're not going to just forget to pay your bills because you're hanging out in the astral plane. Okay. So I'm going to continue here. It's safe for spirit to be my safest place. It's safe for my deepest intimacy to be with spirit. And that can feel scary because it can feel like I'm going to choose being intimate with spirit over my children, over my partner, over my closest relationships, you know, and especially if you have a history of codependency or people pleasing, it's going to feel like that's wrong. It's going to feel like that doesn't fit, or like you're betraying people, you're not being loyal. But what you're going to find when you start to practice this is that you're just so much more centered and grounded. You have so much more to offer to those other people in your life when you choose for your highest intimacy to be with spirit, because no matter how much intimacy we seek to experience here on this planet with humans, there is nothing like the infinite intimacy that we can access through spirituality. And the only way to really fully understand that is to feel it, to palpably experience it, which is why if you haven't started already, start a meditation practice. Stare at a candle flame for a minute if you need to. That's how I began. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that one so that it makes sense flowing into the next. It's safe for my deepest intimacy to be with spirit. In fact, it's required for my highest health and happiness. It feels like I'm detached from those I love because it's necessary to devote entirely within during times of ascension. And this is actually a reel that I did on my Instagram, Emerge Healing and Wellness, that you can check out as well, around disconnection. Because there's this feeling of, I feel disconnected from people, or why do I feel detached, or why do I feel like there's a wall up, or I just can't get close enough, right? And it's because you're looking for a deeper level of intimacy, and because you're being called to detach some temporarily, to go within and to really anchor yourself within that next level of what your spirit is guiding you to. And once you have that anchor set, you can return to a new level of yourself in these relationships, and they're going to be receiving your upgrades as well, just by connecting with you. So we talked about it's necessary to devote entirely within during times of ascension, right? You need that time, just like the monks going into the mountains for like 3 weeks, right? And what we need to remember is that it serves rather than draws from our human relationships when we do this and go within. The level of space that I hold is exponential when I return from spiritual immersion, which serves us all. There's nothing more life-giving than spirit. There's nothing more foundational and life-sustaining than my own self-love. There's nothing more foundational and life-sustaining than my own self-love. So that's what came forward around one of the biggest barriers to expansion. That's a big one. I encourage you to take some time to internalize that and just see where you sit with it. The third thing that they came forward with was combating feelings of loneliness and isolation. So immersing into the innermost depths of your soul is never going to feel lonely. And again, I did not believe this until I experienced it myself. And it wasn't enough, like I got enough of a taste going into meditation, going to the Akashic records, doing Reiki, you know, tuning into my energy field, learning about my energetic blueprint, about my subconscious mind. All of these things assisted me, okay? But I'm just looking at my notes here so that I don't miss anything. The depth of my immersion is what made the difference for me. It wasn't saying, okay, I'm going to try all these different modalities and see what works. Yes, that was at the beginning of my journey, but then it was, you know, stop looking at all the shiny objects and trying to figure out what you need to do to expand your skill set. Take what you enjoy and what works for you and deepen it. Deepen it. Because when you do that and you get deeper and deeper into yourself, you're going to find that you will never, ever feel loneliness. Never. You'll be able to return to that. You find a home within you. It's beautiful. So my other question for you on a concrete level is like, do you honestly think that there aren't at least a few people on this planet like you? Right? Like there's billions of people on this planet. There's at least 1 to 3 people that are just like you. So it's taking the initiative to find them instead of laying back in defeat and taking a passive role in your life and feeling like there's nobody out there, there's nothing for me. That's what's beautiful about the internet. We get to access all these humans that we wouldn't run into at the grocery store, right? So just know it's a possibility. Start with that, okay? Persistent loneliness is a subconscious choice, a choice by your subconscious mind that is somehow in alignment with its identity. So why does loneliness serve your subconscious mind? What is it offering you? Because it wouldn't exist if it weren't offering you something, right? We get to create our own reality. So when we sit back and take a passive role and say, well, I'm just so lonely, or nobody loves me, or I can't access anyone, right? It's a lack of creativity and being able to access that. And sometimes we need other people to help us with getting that started. That's fine. And lastly, on that topic, take initiative, deepen your devotion to aligned, intimate connection, beginning with yourself. Make a commitment to yourself. I promise you, if you have chronic feelings of loneliness, like I did for most of my life, it was a lack of deep, concentrated devotion to myself. And I was very devoted to myself, but it needed to be deeper and it needed to be more. I was called to more. And I was frustrated and impatient with that at first. And I had to learn to love the process of loving myself instead of looking at what the outcome was going to be. Just enjoy the process of loving myself, because you're always being invited inward into clear alignment with your soul, always. Okay. And then lastly, we're going to shift into self-trust. And this is very similar to what we were talking about earlier around, you know, where are you already established as a human? Because you already are established in some way, shape, or form, right? So my questions here for you are, what do you already have down in your life? Like, what do you already have down? What do you know you have mastered at some level? It could be cleaning your damn house. It could be making dinner. Like, it doesn't have to be this giant service-based, enormous skill. right? But you have something down. You might just have down that you go to bed every day and wake up every day. Guess what? You have that down, right? So, and it may be that it's giving that you have down. If you're watching this, I guarantee you that you are intuitive or an empath or a sensitive soul who's very, very open to receiving and feeling into the energy that comes into this planet. And even if you don't recognize that consciously, if you're watching this, I guarantee you're that kind of person. And therefore, you've got giving down to other people. You've got masculine structure down if you live on this freaking planet. Because we have to have some level of masculine structure to operate on this planet with other human beings, right? So what I will tell you here with self-trust is that identify what you already have down, celebrate it, recognize it, appreciate yourself, honor yourself for it, and reward yourself with presence when you notice it, when you recognize it, when you think about it. Because presence is so much more important than any time that we are giving to ourselves or others. Presence is more important than anything. And that can simply be just sitting with your hands in your heart space, taking a nice deep breath in, closing your eyes, and just witnessing your heart beating and your breath moving. Just being conscious of what's around you in your energy field. And in that moment, you can just be. There's nothing to do. There's nowhere to go. And you just being with yourself on a consistent basis massively enhances self-trust, because we get so lost in the human sauce and the go, 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 and the things we need to do and who we desire to become. And then our self-trust gets challenged because we think about all the past things that have happened that have influenced how we feel about ourselves, and all the future things that we want to do that we either haven't done yet or that we don't know how to get to, that interferes with our present moment self-trust. You right here in this moment can trust that your heart is beating, that your breath is moving, that the internet is working. So I'd love to hear your feedback as to how this felt for you. What resonates? What are you going to implement? This work is beautiful. It's deep, it's beautiful, it's expansive, it's freeing. I love it so much. And if you'd like to jump on a one-on-one, I have vibrational assessments, $50, 20 minutes. I will scan your whole field, physical, mental, emotional, energetic, and spiritual. And we will answer some questions as to, like, where the hell am I supposed to go? Who am I supposed to be? What's going on with this situation that I can't seem to resolve, right? And we'll just start there and get you activated into a certain level of momentum. Sometimes that's all you need. So thank you so much for listening, and I will see you soon on the next Akashic Update. Have a great day. Don't forget to like and subscribe below and hit the notification bell for new videos.